What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. And today we're talking about Wonder Woman, guys. We are 48 hours since the release of Wonder Woman 84. So I'm going to be breaking down my review, but we're going to also talk about Wonder Woman 3, huge announcement as of today. And then we're going to talk about your Wonder Woman spec books and what the success or the feedback surrounding Wonder Woman 84 has been, what Wonder Woman 3 can do to the character and the franchise, and if your books are going to either retain value, decrease in value, are they going to hurt from this, or are they going to favor from this? But let's start out with the movie, guys. First off, I enjoyed Christmas. I hope all of you guys had a great Christmas and holiday weekend as well. We had Christmas dinner, and then we sat down, had some popcorn, and watched the Wonder Woman 84 movie on HBO Max. And let's see. Let's first off state that there's going to be some spoilers. All right, so if you guys have not watched the film yet, you might want to hold off on this video until you do. Oh, and before I get into it, guys, as always, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please take some time to do so and check out all the awesome links below, including how you can support the channel for only $3.99 a month to get extra perks as well as a Patreon member. All right, guys, but let's get into it. So I go into this movie. I'm excited. I've been waiting for something all year long. I enjoyed the introduction in Themyscira, where young Wonder Woman is. There's obviously something going on that's going to play into some type of theme. That's gonna be this moral story throughout the film. So this introduction was pretty long, and it showed Diana going through these Olympian Games, right, and learning lessons, and then we fast forward to 1984. Now, let me tell you, when we first got to 1984 and we saw the scene in the mall and she was going after the villains, it kind of was a bit too much 1984ish to me. But from here, there was a lot of really good stepping points in the film that started to get me really into it, and I was starting to enjoy it. But then there was times where it would dip off, but then it would pick up again. And somewhere in the middle of the film, I was just kind of like, I don't know if I was lost or just feeling like, okay, I don't know if this really is settling or working for me at this point. Then when we got to the climax, or the third act, and then the climax of the film, there was some great action, and I really liked finding out the story arc for the main antagonist, which we'll get into for a minute. But I felt like the lead up from A to Z up to that point was kind of, I don't know, it was a bit of convoluted. So let's break this down though and sum up some key points that I picked out. I'm going to bring up my notes here and we're going to talk about this stuff, guys. Overall, I'm just going to say I thoroughly enjoyed the film. I was entertained, but a lot of issues or things that I felt like they didn't need to do or that they could have done better. But let's go into some stuff. First off, let's talk about tonage of the film. Okay, I felt the tone of this film gave me mixed emotions. Right, I think that they definitely tried to do a basically. It reminded me of like Richard Donner's Superman. Okay, it had a very, very Donner Superman feel, which I think a lot of people that watch this film, especially the younger crowd that didn't really grow up on the Superman movies, probably didn't relate to or didn't catch, and it probably kind of threw them off. Okay, for me, I could appreciated it. It was very Linda Carter Wonder Woman series as well. That whole vibe, and I think Patty Jenkins and team went with that on purpose, but I just feel the tone didn't work seamlessly throughout. Okay, and I think a part of that was because I don't know if they decided if this was supposed to be a period piece or just a piece that took place sometime in the past, but yet we wanted to feel grounded in it regardless of the time period. So I would have liked them to either said, I'm sticking with this being a full-on period piece, or I'm going full on with a different tone and a different emotion. And my example for that was Days of Future Past. I have many issues with all the X-Men films in the Fox's X-Men franchise. Days of Future Past, though, to me was the best film in that franchise, and the tonality was amazing from beginning to end. And even though it took place in the 70s, it wasn't like, it was a 70s feel. It wasn't a period piece to where you had to be so immersed into the vibe and the culture and the feeling of the 1970s. Same with Wonder Woman 84. I don't feel we needed that. I feel it could have been more subtle, where, like, what one point that I really enjoyed was Diana and Steve Trevor, and when he's trying out, going through the wardrobe and trying on stuff from the 80s. It was funny. It was, it fit, but it didn't need to be drawn out throughout the whole movie to say, like, look, hey, we're in the night where it's 1984 and we're gonna throw it in your face. Over the top, attitudes, over the top haircuts, and we really got that in the mall scene. It was extremely over the top. Let's move on though, guys. Let's talk about motivation of story. I do feel like the story had a lot of deep seated meaning, okay, and that played out in the end. I appreciated that. But I think, like, first off, the main antagonist was Maxwell Lord. It wasn't Barbara Minerva. It wasn't Cheetah, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. And now Pedro Pascal did, I think, an amazing job, but even the tone here, I mean, his tone in the beginning was a little bit extreme into that kind of period piece of the, hey, we're in the 80s, and then it played out to where we felt this character on a much more deeper level, which worked for me. But I feel like his motivation should have been fleshed out a lot more throughout the movie instead of just at the end. All right, so for Maxwell Lord, in the end of the film, we get to his breaking point, and his son really plays a big part in that, and it got emotional, where he just got overwhelmed. He took the power of the stone, and ultimately was making the world crumble, fall to pieces because he wanted power. But we see at the end, we have this like 67-second flashback to his childhood, to where we see what drove him to be this individual that has such low self-esteem and wanted to seek out all this power, to an extent that he wasn't there for his son, he wasn't there for his family, and he was just making all these mistakes, trying to put himself into this facade and this image of something that he wasn't. And of course, at the end of the movie, when he embraces his son, I mean, that's a very very intense and emotional piece right there that you can really feel. And I like that this film didn't just do a cliche villain where you don't have any remote remorse from them, like, say, kind of the Marvel formula, like Obadiah Stane in Iron Man 1, which is one of my favorite superhero films of all time. Still, the motivation for Obadiah, I mean, he's a freaking sociopath, right? So, and I think we've gotten that a lot in Marvel films. They're sociopaths. They're power hungry. With this, there was motivation there. There was this flawed character that was just, got so, dug themselves such this deep hole. I appreciated that. Let's talk about Barbara Minerva. Now, obviously, I felt her character was a straight rip off of Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, but it was fine. I felt like it worked. It worked very well. You understood. There was a lot of that macho, misogynistic behavior towards a woman. Oh, she's not accepted, especially probably in the 80s. In the workplace, unless you're attractive and you wear a skirt with heels and whatnot, you don't get seen, you don't get noticed, and things like that. And she kind of wanted that attention, I guess. And when she made the wish to be like Diana, that kind of went to her head, and ultimately getting the powers of Wonder Woman, she finally said, oh, now nobody's gonna knock me down. I like that. But then we skip to where she is Cheetah, and I know she made, they hinted at the one line, oh, I want to be a whatever predator, right? They made that line to say, okay, she's hinting at it, and then all of a sudden, the next time we see her, she's a humanoid cheetah. It made no sense. And then she gets one little, like, 90-second or 2-minute fight scene with Wonder Woman, and that's it. So we're gonna talk about what that means for some spec books, but let's move on to some more of the story here in these other characters. Okay, Chris Pine coming back as Steve Trevor. I wasn't really a fan of the way they did that. I'm glad that they explained it though, and I think Chris Pine was great. I thought the back and forth between him and Gal was really awesome. It was entertaining. He brought that kind of humor that just really worked. But the fact that he was in someone else's body, I'm glad it worked, because how are you going to explain somebody coming back from the dead? But like there, they spent the night together and stuff happened, and like Diana is not like looking at the situation like this is somebody else being hijacked, like their body is hijacked by some spirit, and we're like, I'm not even gonna get into details, but do you not find that strangely odd? It's like that was weird for me, and I've never been a fan of, even in the first film, which I love, my favorite DCEU film, I never liked the fact that they needed to make Wonder Woman be this kind of like puppy dog, oh, a man, oh, and having to fall so deeply in love with this man in order to feel validated, right? So, but here's one thing that I do like. When it came time for Wonder Woman or Diana to relinquish her wish, right? So she could get her powers back, because that's what she sacrificed. And I liked that part of the movie as well, the whole sacrifice thing. Like, the stone will grant you a wish, but it's going to take something away as well. That irony was very, very, I think, important to the message in the film. So when there was that scene with her and Trevor, and him telling her like, look, I live my life, you need to be you. And like, look, Gal Gadot, like, she's just, and that's the one thing about this film. Every time she's on screen, I was good, right? She is just amazing as Wonder Woman, as Diana, and I have nothing more to say about that. In that moment in that film, and that emotion was really, really on point. Those are the two moments that I really enjoy, where she was having that emotional, heart to heart with Steve, and then when she runs, she says goodbye, and then she runs in the street, and she's running and she's crying, and she relinquishes her wish, and then she gets her powers back, and like I thought that was very, very powerful. I pair that the same with where we finally see Maxwell Lord, recognize his wrongdoings, and then we see him go and embrace his son. He's calling out for his son, and then finally he sees him and they run, and like those two, I'm almost getting goosebumps talking about it right now. Those were really, really amazing points, where I don't know if even the first film had that type of deep sentiment rooted in it, even though I think overall the first film was much, much better in totality, right? So, again, a lot of holes, but still a lot of good things. One thing that again, another big issue that I had with this film, that just kind of, I'm sure we can overlook, but there was too much cartoonish kind of CGI at times, and I really didn't like the overuse of the lasso, of Wonder Woman's lasso, where, like, especially in the mall scene where she was swinging from things like she was Spider-Man. It's like, I get the lasso is what it is, but it was just like it was like Wonder Woman as Spider-Man swinging from buildings and stuff. Like, it was a bit too much. I would rather see Wonder Woman just, like, jumping and soaring and kicking ass without having to use this lasso to swing in a way that was, in 2020, when we have all this CGI technology, that just felt so, it felt like a 1979 or 78 Superman movie. Even when she was flying, it was very, like I said, Donner-esque, to where it's like, okay, is this supposed to make us feel nostalgic like this, or are we just really not, putting the budget into the CGI to make it more believable when we're seeing it on screen in the year 2020? So, now here's the thing. I want to say one more thing about Cheetah. I felt that Cheetah was cheated. I felt that Cheetah's role in this movie was almost spot on parallel to Venom's role in Spider-Man 3. You know, you get this character, Eddie Brock, and, you know, you kind of get an idea of where he's coming from. And then, you know, he shows up as Venom, and then boom, and it's like, wow, okay. Now, keep in mind, I think the casting was much better for Cheetah than Topher Grace was for Venom, but extreme parallels. I would have liked to see Barbara Minerva there be introduced. We see her storyline kind of build up, and then, but introduce her as Cheetah maybe in the next film. So my point is, I think that Maxwell Lord as the antagonist in this film worked well. I just don't think we should have had Cheetah at all. I think that was more of a fan service. Hey, look, here's a cliche, not a cliche, but a you know, known Wonder Woman villain that you guys as fans can identify with, and we're gonna sell her in the trailers, right? She was there as Cheetah for like 2 minutes, so that was just, yeah, that was a bit probably the biggest disappointment that I felt the movie had, guys. So I do think that overall this is still ironically one of the best DCEU films. Wonder Woman being number one, and that, I think that speaks to the fact that um, the DCEU has struggled immensely. I want to give a big shout out though to Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer is a gangster. The emotion that he puts in his music really drives the emotion of a film. And as a musician myself, I had to recognize that. I think that was absolutely key to making this film, the good moments, as good as they were. So my overall rating of this film, I'm gonna go back and watch it again. Right now, we're just watching it once. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think if I watch it again, I'll probably come away enjoying it, being able to enjoy it a little more. My Here's my thing to those people that are really hating on this film. Honestly, I don't think there's a need to hate on this film. It wasn't garbage. It was definitely entertaining, and it had a message in the film that I think a lot of people missed, that I think was very, very important, and I'm glad that they went that route. I just think it got kind of convoluted in the things that I talked about. I think people that are hating on this film didn't understand it. I think they wanted more just of that action. You know, it has to be action packed from moment to end. I will say I wish we would have saw more Wonder Woman in the film, absolutely. But still, Gal on screen as Diana or Wonder Woman, she's just amazingly perfect. So, with that being said, for those that are really hating on this film, go back, watch it again, and try to open your mind to it. This film did not need the cliche stereotype action packed scenes, although there could have been more of it. Like I said, there could have been much more of it with Wonder Woman and Cheetah. And like I said, I wanted Maxwell Lord's story arc to be more fleshed out earlier so we can really get behind him sooner than we did. So, all right, guys, that's my breakdown. Now let's talk about a couple things. We're going to get into some books that I have right here too, that all of us were probably specking on for a long time now, knowing that this movie was coming. But let's talk about this announcement today, guys. So we got an announcement, an official announcement coming from Jenkins herself, that the trilogy will be completed. So Wonder Woman 3 is ready to go, in a sense that it's greenlit. Jenkins did state that she has already sat down with Jeff Johns with the script, but she was saying that there could be changes just because she wrote it before COVID and everything that we went through this year, and she doesn't know. She wants it to be relevant to the world that we live in. So I'm very excited to hear that there's going to be a third film. I think it's going to surprise us. I think it's going to be completely different than the first one and this one. I'm very, very excited to see the take that they're going to go. So really happy that that's going to play out. They talked about there's no release date. There's no schedule for anything of when they're even going to start maybe production on it or anything like that, or casting. So, but it's good to know that we got an announcement. I mean, 48 hours after the release of the film. And by the way, guys, the film is really doing extremely successful in the theaters that are open, and with, I mean, it broke HBO Max, basically. So that's the positive thing, even though some of the, the reaction has been kind of, divided here. But let's talk about spec book, guys. Spec book, excuse me, and what the reaction to this film means for those spec books and what a Wonder Woman 3 means overall. So, first off, let me say first and foremost that I talked about this recently too, how Marvel's spec game is heavily based on their MCU success right now. DC is obviously still dominating in the market when it comes to their key books. They're still gaining value. The blue chip keys are still increasing over time. But when you talk about books that are impacted specifically by movie spec, it's a little bit of a different beast than Marvel. So I got 3 books here that are specific to this movie. This movie, the success or lack thereof of Wonder Woman 84 isn't going to change your blue chip Wonder Woman keys whatsoever. And even, Wonder Woman #1, the 1984 George Perez run, which has gotten hot with the release of this film. I don't see that book really dipping hard or anything because of any negative backlash of this film. Okay, I think that's a solid book all around. But let's look at a few. I'm going to talk about this book first. This is Justice League #1. This is from the 80s. This is the first appearance of Maxwell Lord. Got a couple copies here. I gave one of these away in a contest recently too. I think it might have been I forget, one of my contests. So let's look at some numbers here for this book, guys. And then we'll talk about what I think this character's role in this film is going to do to this book. So right now, guys, we have a fair market value of a 9.8, sitting above $100. So sitting right above $100. We had a high sell of 122. All right, high raw, $20. And again, high raw doesn't mean grade; it just means the highest raw book sale on the market. So I actually think that even though there's this kind of divisive reaction to this film, there's a lot of skeptics and critics. I don't see this book. First off, there wasn't a lot of hype around it because we really didn't know Maxwell Lord's involvement in the movie, or, from the previews, we didn't even know that he was involved in the film at all. So I actually think that this book actually has potential to continue to increase. Nothing crazily, but I don't see this book hurting from any type of feedback, negative or positive, from this film. The highest raw sold for $20 on Christmas Day. So that goes to show you that people saw this movie and they went out and bought the book, right? And it was the highest sale. So when you look at the 9.8s, let's look when the last sale was. The last sale of a 9.8 was in August. And then let's see, last sale of a 9.6 was in November. But people went out and bought a couple of the of these raw books and paid the highest price on the market. So that's a positive sign, guys. This book, I think, is going to be one that's going to retain, a decent $20 value, I will say, in a high near mint grade. I don't see this ever going back down to where it's going to be your mere run-of-the-mill back issue book or even like bargain bin book, in high grade at least. So this is a positive thing. But I got 2 other books to talk about, guys. All right. And that's Cheetah. It has to do with Cheetah here. So I got a couple of copies of Wonder Woman #9, which is the first appearance of Cheetah, Barbara as Cheetah. But I got my 9.4 Wonder Woman #7, the first appearance of Barbara Minerva. Okay. This is the first appearance of her as Cheetah, and she's on the cover as well. Now, this is still more of the money book. We're going to look at the values of Wonder Woman #7 here, guys, okay? So, you got a fair market value of a 9.8 at about $200, but a high 9.8 sold for $350. Now, let's see when these were sold. High raw, $52, by the way. 9.8. The last 9.8 that sold was on the 15th for $200. You had one in November sell for $200. Yeah, I mean, this you can see that over the course of this year, this book, it gained a little bit of value. You can see a lot of sales for around the 150 mark, but you could tell that, when did we get the first trailer? Because in November of last year, we saw this book. Actually, it was in September. We got a $300 sale, $300 sale, 265. So yeah, it looks like 350, and that's all in. That's some between August to November of 2019. This book was hitting high, so it already cooled off. A lot of that may have been due to the stagnation of the film, and now it's rounded off to be about a $200 book. So the thing to watch for is what this book's going to sell for in the next month or so. All right, it's already cooled off. I can guarantee you, with the disappointment of this character, I bet this book's going to cool off a little more. I wouldn't be surprised if this book cools off to anywhere from 125 to 150 fair market value in a 9.8. I would not be surprised. I don't think it's going to go under $100 maybe ever again in a 9.8. But guys, it's definitely not holding this value in my humble opinion. As I said, it's already decreased. So, and just the way that this character was handled, I think it's extremely problematic. Extremely problematic. Throwaway villain. That had so much potential. That $52 raw sale was in November. There was a $40 raw sale in November as well. So there was, look at this, there was a raw sale for $3.99 on Christmas Day. So somebody went out and bought it. I can assume that that's probably a beat up copy. I don't think it dipped that much to where people are only paying $4 for a near mint copy raw. But so let's look at number 9 now. Okay. Let's see. All right, so let's look at a 9.8. Your 9.8 fair market value sitting at about 125 for this one. Again, I said that, number 7 was a little bit more of the money book. This one does trail behind, even though it's her first appearance as Cheetah and she's on the cover. Very interesting, right? Because sometimes we really value the first cover appearance. And the first appearance in costume or as character. All right, guys. We had multiple sales at about 130. Going back from the summer, June, August. But let's go back to last year and see what this book did. Yeah, this book did not get hot. This book wasn't really in a 9.8. I mean, you only have a couple. Oh, you do have one for 150 and 140, and then 165 between August and October of last year. All right. And then it cooled off a little bit. You have a $100 sale, a $110 sale, and then like another $100 sale, and then $400 or $330 sales from February to August. But then there's no 9.8 sales after that. So again, it's probably a little bit of stagnation due to the fact that this movie was put on hold. $30 high sale in November for this book. There's actually multiple $30 raw sales in November, 3 of them. So again, only time will tell. Let's watch this book. I think, of course, is going to be a similar situation as the number 7. I think you're going to see this drop and kind of cool off. I mean, we already haven't had any, 9.8 graded sales for a couple months now, or a few months now, since August. So yeah, a bit disappointed. And like I said, I think, look, I'm all about thresholds, right? I talk about thresholds a lot, and I don't think that these books are going to go back down to what they were, even 3-4 years ago. I think they're still going to hold a higher value than that, and I still think, these are essentially copper age books that, especially in high grades, over time, they're gonna keep and retain and probably slowly increase in value, regardless of what the perception of this character is in this specific film. But right now, I think the lack of the Cheetah's role in this movie is going to hurt these books, at least, over the next coming months or next year or two. Now, let's talk really briefly before I wrap up about Wonder Woman 3. I think Wonder Woman 3 has the ability to unite the fan base again and really bring this character in Gal Gadot's role as Wonder Woman full circle. I don't doubt Patty Jenkins. Like I said, I mean, this film wasn't a total wash. I think Jenkins and team really tried to go with something that I don't want to say was never done before, but when you try to really take a period piece and do so much homage to, like a Donner Superman or a Linda Carter Wonder Woman, you know, that era of superhero stuff from the 70s and 80s, it worked really well for that time period. But when you try to bring that into a modernized 2020 film, where you already have a first film that stood so firm on its foundation that it built, there's a lot of expectations set, and I think this film strayed, and not that that's a negative thing, but they strayed from those expectations and took risks and challenges, and I think just some people didn't understand. So, all right, guys, I know that was a lot. We talked about my feelings on the film. We talked about the books and what I think they're going to do in the future. Let me know what you guys thought. Let me know if you've watched the film, what you thought of the movie, if you have any of these books, or what you think are going to happen to these spec books that are specifically related to this film and the success or lack of success thereof. So, with that being said, guys, again, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please take some time to do so. Check out my official merch store, link below. How you can be Patreon for $3.99, comic book canon, link below. We have an awesome show this coming Wednesday, special Wednesday show as well. A1 Comics, State of Comics, amazing YouTubers, all those links below. Thank you guys for watching. Be well, and until next time.